Honorable members, prayers. Almighty God, we humbly beseech thee to look with favor upon this Parliament of the Republic of Ghana. O God, grant us a vision of our country, fair as it might be, a country of righteousness, where none shall wrong his neighbor, a country of plenty, where evil and poverty shall be done away with, a country of brotherhood, where all success shall be founded on service and honor, and shall be given to the deserving, a country of peace, where government shall rest on the will of the people and the love for the common good. Bless the effort of those who struggle to make this vision a living reality. Inspire our people that they may give time, thought, and sacrifice to speed the day of the coming beauty of Ghana and Africa. Amen. Honorable members, item number 3, correction of votes and proceedings and official reports. Correction of votes, page 1. Page 2. Page 3. Page 4. Page 5. Page 6. Page 7.
Right Honorable Speaker, page 7, number 11 and 18 were corrected yesterday, but is still appearing here as they being absent. Honorable Ano and Honorable Ophelia are in South Africa attending Pan-Africa meeting. Thank you.
Table, please take note. Page 8. Page 9. Page 10. Page 11. Page 12. Page 13. Page 14. Page 15. Page 16. page 17, page 18, page 19, and finally page 20. Honorable members, the votes and proceedings of the sixth sitting of the second meeting of the first session held yesterday, Wednesday, 2nd June 2021, as corrected, are adopted as the true records of proceedings. Honorable members, item number 4, statement. The first statement, a statement on the Green Ghana project by government, and the statement stands the name of a member for Temaris North, Honorable Alasan Suhini. Yes, Honorable.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the honorable member in question is on the appointment committee, and therefore they are sitting.
Very well. So you step it down. Is Bolban Boy MP around? Honorable Yusuf? He is also not around. Is Honorable Lydia Lamisi around? Okay. You will take your statement. And the statement is on parks and gardens. Honorable, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm very grateful for the opportunity to read this statement on the floor of this honorable House. Parks and Gardens, which is now a department and a Ministry of Local Government, was established by President Kwame Nkrumah in 1961. It was a ministry under Cabinet Minister Mr. E.N. Okansi, and was responsible for the development of the nation's landscape and the preservation and beautification of the environment. Unfortunately, over the years, portions of parks and gardens land has been appropriated for concrete structures. Mr. Speaker, these include promoting landscape beautification, acquiring lands to establish public parks and promote ecotourism to generate revenue for the assemblies and jobs for the youth, pursuing action to combat the effect of global warming by promoting a national tree planting campaign involving all stakeholders, collaborating with the Botany Department of the University of Ghana, and other stakeholders to document the country's flora, to develop and maintain a national information facility for sharing digital biodiversity data, initiating programs to identify threatened economic and ornamental plants for multiplication and conservation. In addition, the department promotes public education and importance of plants for human survival, conservation of threatened plants and restoration of plant diversity, as well as communicating its importance and the global strategy for plant conservation programs. Mr. Speaker, COVID-19 has taught us the importance of green spaces for our health and well-being, and we need to protect the few open spaces that remain in our sprawling cities. Global warming is a reality, and we can fight it by planting trees that purify the air and provide shade, not by felling precious trees. Mr. Speaker, open spaces, as well as we all know, is now becoming difficult to locate these days in our urban areas. Hence, the indiscriminate parking of vehicles on roads. This ends up narrowing our inner city roads, which causes increasing motor accidents in our inner cities as a result of double parking. Mr. Speaker, Ghanaians, including environmental groups like eco-conscious citizens, are asking for assurance that parks and garden lands will be kept for the green economy. The land is essential for sustainable horticulture, botanical, and environmentally focused use. Assurances are sought that the area will not be rezoned from green civic to exclusively civic to make room for extending the concrete jungle with another multi-story office buildings. Mr. Speaker, this should not be accepted by any well-meaning Ghanaian, where the limited space acquired for the purpose of parks and gardens will be allowed by government or any individual to use them for construction purposes. Mr. Speaker, the famous Kaukuri Park in Accra and the Green Basondebu PLC Park in my constituency are gradually losing their existence. This is totally unacceptable and should be condemned, and those involved should be responsible. Mr. Speaker, in view of climate emergency and the fact that one of the functions of parks and gardens is to combat the effect of global warming by promoting a national tree planting campaign, it is astonishing that environmental vandalism took place at parks and gardens in 2019. It is alleged that over 140 trees and 5,000 plants were destroyed to make a way for a concrete structure. When eco-conscious citizens GH visited the site, sand, stone, and building materials were a clear portion of the parks and gardens, the garden lands. According to the Environmental Protection Agency, it did not give permission for the felling of those trees. Mr. Speaker, the Department of Parks and Gardens should be empowered to fill its remit of developing the nation's and the preservation and beautification of the environment. At a time when Ghana's forests are disappearing at an alarming rate, and cities like Accra and Kumasi are becoming concrete jungles, parks and gardens should be at the forefront of defending the country against the relentless southwards movement of the Sahara and taking a leadership role in promoting the health benefits of the trees and nature. Land Commission should provide a list of areas designated as parks and gardens in open spaces in Accra. This information will ensure that federal lands meant for public gardens and open spaces are not appropriated and used to expand Accra's concrete jungle. Mr. Speaker, COVID-19 and global warming dictate that we should preserve our green spaces. Mr. Speaker, the Ghanaian public respectfully asks, 1, for the assurance that parks and garden lands will be used for horticultural, botanical, and other environmental purposes only, that no part of the land will be appropriated for concrete buildings, and that the department will be supported to fulfill the role for which it was set up. That the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources and Land Commission will be directed to publish a list of areas designated as public parks and open space so that the citizenry is aware of the landscape of the commons and open spaces for all appropriated to expand the growing concrete jungles. Not appropriated to expand the growing concrete jungles, sorry. Mr. Speaker, I would like to conclude by calling on Ghanaians, including all honorable members of parliament, and right honorable Speaker, to safeguard our environment and to engage in environmentally friendly activities. We should also develop the habit of visiting parks and gardens to refresh our minds and for other therapeutic benefits as we appreciate the beauty of parks and gardens. Let us all join the conscious citizens and other environmental friendly groups for us to protect our green spaces. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity.
Thank you, Honorable Member. Yes, Honorable Member.
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker, for the opportunity to speak or contribute to the statement made by my. When you look at parks and gardens, you look at the frontage of the Flagstaff House, it tells you the great potential of parks and gardens. It's a department that, when well resourced, will be able to perform its function to meet the beautification of the capital cities. I believe that the decentralization of parks and gardens should go and support in greening the cities. That is supporting the Green Ghana project. Right Honorable Speaker, as we speak, the department is so under-resourced. In terms of logistics, they have barely the basic tools to work to ensure that their areas of operation in terms of decentralized department are really grained and beautified. Aside the resources, I also believe that leadership of the department need to actually be creative in raising or mobilizing funds to be able to work. Individuals are contacting or making use of private garden institutions, or let me say companies. This is what I believe, that when parks and gardens is really resourced, they'll be able to, go into resource mobilization to support their department. Currently, as we speak, the Green Ghana project is around, and we are supposed to be supporting it. If Parks and Gardens is up and doing, I'm sure that we'll be able to channel the seeds or the trees that has to be planted to the various districts, and then MPs will be able to support the project. Not quite long ago, the Member of Parliament for Ododoji raised the issue of trees that were very old being cut down to make way for kiosk in the middle of the road. And I believe that those are areas that, when well beautified, anybody that enters sees that there's some beauty and then some cleanliness of the city. It took the Honorable Member of Parliament to draw the attention of the regional minister, who also went in to make sure that the kiosks were removed. Unfortunately, the trees that were lost in the course of it cannot be replaced. And even when replaced, it will take so many years to grow. I believe that for such acts, those people who initiated it or perpetrated it need to be brought to book and then they should be tasked as part of the punitive measures to plant the trees, see to its growth, and make sure that the place is beautified. It is not enough to take the kiosk out of the place. It will only make way for other things to come there when the place is left bare. I plead with the House to also add our voice to the resourcing of parks and gardens to ensure that they perform their functions, especially at the district level, so that we all put our support or give them our support in order to beautify our various constituencies. I thank you very much for the opportunity.
Yes, Honorable Member for Enya Sotu.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. Thanks for the opportunity to make a few comments in support of the item being discussed, which is parks and gardens. I'm actually of the opinion absolutely Dr. Kwame Nkrumah did something very wonderful for us. I'm hoping that this can be replicated in all municipalities in this country, so that I don't have to travel from Boli Bamboy to Accra to enjoy the beauty and the benefits of a park and garden within Accra. So I'll use this opportunity to plead that one way or the other, as we plan for our nation, we put into consideration the possibility of developing something smaller scale. Let me say a miniature Accra Parks and Garden in all the various municipalities, or shall I say constituencies in this country. And that is my small contribution to the statement. Thank you very much.
Yes, Honorable Member for Tamale Central.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker, for giving me the opportunity to contribute statements ably made by my sister. Right Honorable Speaker, I think that is a wake-up call for both policymakers, including ourselves as members of Parliament, to encourage the state to invest in parks and gardens. There is no denying the fact that all of us seated here would have experienced the importance of parks and gardens growing up. At least several of our colleagues here are older than me. But as young as and as old as I am, I experienced the importance of parks and gardens when I was growing up in Tamale. I remember we had the Tamale Library situated at the same place, and it was for us to go there and play as kids. We were not just playing, but it was also an opportunity for us to bond with people who necessarily didn't come from our homes. And I think that if we encourage the state and urge the state to invest in providing that, it will take away some of the unfortunate incidences young people are engaged in. They do so because they may not have job opportunities, but at least there is a place they can go and bond with their colleagues. The importance of parks and gardens also provide a clean air, particularly for urban or cities. The fact is that we know the effects of the vegetation to us. We tend to be cutting down trees to put up structures, unconscious of the effect on us. The scientists will tell you we breathe out carbon dioxide, and we need oxygen to survive, and that oxygen can only be provided with the vegetation that is available. And if we cut them without providing such opportunities for us to survive, I think that will be a danger. It is also an opportunity to bring about the storation of water, because once those things are done, particularly the water beneath the ground, if we have these vegetation covers that are left nurtured and protected, at least we would have the opportunity to provide the needed water, not only for domestic use, but sometimes for commercial purposes. I think parks and gardens also contributes in ensuring the communal nature of our people. Africans, we are communal in nature. But if the existing parks and gardens are not maintained, and we don't take the steps to ensure that we improve upon them, we may not have the opportunity to gather together as people. And that is why we are becoming individualistic, affecting even policy formulation, and that is also affecting the cohesion that otherwise existed between and among us. And I think it is important we look at that. It is also an opportunity to help improving the mental health of people. If I'm a young person who doesn't have any job opportunity, unless there is some place I can go and relax, and once I relax, the frustrations that otherwise would have tempted me to engage in something illegal, I may not be able to do that. And I think it helps. So with this, I think we should all demand that anytime we want to approve budgets or financial statements in this House, I think that we should demand that there should be something in it. And I'm happy that some of our colleagues who are ministers today and are in this House have a moral duty and a responsibility to ensure that if we want to ensure that our kids enjoy what we also enjoyed as young people growing up, I think that we should insist that in our policy formulations, in the financial statements that are brought here, there is an item for the improvement of the parks and gardens in this country. Mr. Speaker, I think that one thing that we are also losing sight with is that some of the state lands, if we're going to emphasize and spend in having a vegetation that could be used as parks and gardens, I think that we wouldn't have some of the problems we have today. If a state land is from the traditional authority for the purposes of using it for parks and gardens, even if government doesn't have any immediate use of it, that parks and gardens serves the interests of the community and serve the people. So with these few words, I thank you for giving to contribute in the statement made by my colleague.
Yes, Honorable Member for Busa South.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Indeed, Honorable Member for Busa South. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me the opportunity to add on to a very worthwhile statement. Mr. Speaker, we all know the value of parks, and I believe it is the singular reason that informed the first President of the Republic to have brought into being parks and gardens, as many of us have come to know. Indeed, those of us who are approaching our 50s have been beneficiaries of very beautiful parks in different parts of the country. Unfortunately, as we speak today, we can't say same for the current generation. Mr. Speaker, we all know the reason why parks and gardens has not been able to fulfill its mandate. The reason is simple. It's as a result of inadequate funding. Indeed, if we are serious about providing parks, which we all know are of importance, just not in terms of beautification purposes, but also augmenting our natural and physical environment, and even the impact of parks on the climatic system, the fauna and the flora, I think we ought to look at addressing the inadequate funding provided for the Department of Parks and Gardens. Mr. Speaker, as a society, as a population, we continue to grow in numbers and to expand. Many newer settlements are being established. And I would want to urge the House that we look at making it mandatory for parks to be established in new settlements and newer communities as an effort not only to keep the department alive, but to reinstate its relevance to our collective benefits. Those of us who have had a chance to live in other parts of the world, we know that parks are an integral part of communities across the world in those countries that we have visited. So let this statement not be a 9-day wonder. Let's give it effect. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity.
Okay, finally, honorable member for Saudai.
Mr. Speaker, I thank you to add my voice in support of the statement on the floor. Mr. Speaker, fortuitously, this statement dovetails into government's intention to plant, as it were, 5 million trees, I believe, sometime next week. Mr. Speaker, I heard lots of comments in support of that intervention. But what was lacking, Mr. Speaker, was the fact that when the seedlings are planted, what happens to them? How do we maintain and cure them until they mature? So this statement in respect of the role of the Department of Parks and Gardens is very, very important. Mr. Speaker, there are faculties in some of our universities that are running Bachelor of Science degree programs in horticulture. And yet, over the years, we have deliberately underfunded the Department of Parks and Gardens. Mr. Speaker, how would they recruit these graduates to be able to employ them and let them work in this department? Indeed, it is supposed to be a major source of employment for these graduates who pursue programs in horticulture. So there's a disconnection between what the faculties are running, the programs they are running, and what the institutions are supposed to do. Mr. Speaker, would it not be better if every district runs a Department of Parks and Gardens so it can be a source of employment? Imagine that, for instance, South Dine, we have a Parks and Gardens and employs about 5-6 graduates with degrees in horticulture, times the number of 254 districts that we have. So Parks and Gardens alone can be a major source of absorbing or positively reducing the issue of graduate unemployment. Mr. Speaker, when you get to, for instance, the whole Parks and Gardens, they speak about lack of attention from the central government in terms of subvention. So now it takes philanthropists and benevolent institutions and NGOs to support their operations. So, Mr. Speaker, with this statement, we need to refocus, or urge government to refocus on the work and operations of our parks and gardens. Otherwise, Mr. Speaker, we will go out on the 11th and support the planting of 5 million trees or tree seedlings, hoping that in 10, 15, 20 years, these 5 million tree seedlings will grow into a medium-sized timber. There will be nobody to tender these seedlings until they attain maturity. It will take the Department of Parks and Gardens to do that.
So we need to pay attention, else we'll spend so much, or we'll spend millions of cedis in undertaking this project on the 11th. And once more, when the dry season sets in, they'll wither and die. So government, the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources is the one trying to promote this program. Matter of urgency, rope in the Department of Parks and Gardens so they can be given the opportunity to water the seedlings after they are planted. So the desired effect that government intends to achieve by planting the 5 million trees will be achieved. Mr. Speaker, thank you for the opportunity.
Honorable Leader, hold on. I'll give you the opportunity to contribute to the next statement. Let me revisit the first statement of Green Ghana, and it's connected to the first statement that was made by the lady. So, Honorable Member for Tamale North, Honorable Suhini, will read a statement on Green Ghana project by the government of Ghana on 11th of June. So, Honorable, you may take the floor.
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker, for the opportunity given this afternoon. Mr. Speaker, the forestry sector in 1990, just a couple of decades ago, accounted for 42% of national GDP, and timber was the country's third largest foreign exchange earner. Timber and wood products earnings totaled $140 million in 1993 and $212 million by November 1994. Mr. Speaker, these were not attained by accident. It was the result of a deliberate policy from about 1983 to invest more than $120 million to reform and grow the sector. For example, in 1986, the sector had $24 million timber rehabilitation credit, which financed forestry management and research, as well as imports of logging equipment. It supported reforms such as the replacement of the Ghana Timber Marketing Board with the Timber Export Development Board, responsible for marketing and pricing, and the Forest Products Inspection Bureau, responsible for monitoring contracts, maintaining quality standards, grading products, and acting as a watchdog for illegal transactions. As a result, log production rose by 65%, and export revenues rose by 665% in that. However, this is how the nation partly also started to lose forests, which before extended from about the middle of the country southward to the sea. Almost half of the country was covered with forests before, but by the early 1990s, 1/3 of the country was still forested, and few was of commercial value. Mr. Speaker, in 2010, the FAO established that Africa have the second highest deforestation rate in the world, with an annual deforestation rate of 0.5%. Ghana's deforestation rate was also estimated at 135,395 hectares annually. This has resulted in a dramatic decrease in the nation's forest cover from approximately 7.5 million hectares in 1990 to about 4.9 million hectares in 2010, and an annual loss of about $134 million gross revenue. This rapid loss in our forest cover over the years resulted in an increase in extreme weather conditions, such as longer periods of drought, flooding, and lowering of water levels. These have severely impacted land use, biodiversity, and soil fertility, with consequences on rural livelihoods and the general well-being of all. Mr. Speaker, this situation presents us all with difficult choices between desperately needed hard currency earnings for development and. But, Mr. Speaker, what if we don't have to choose? What if we can still have our cake even though we eat it? Many countries, Mr. Speaker, are making enviable progress at forest transition. Net deforestation to net reforestation over time. This is variously attained through 5 suggested pathways, namely the economic development, forest scarcity, globalization, state forest policy, and smallholder tree-based land use intensification pathways. The success or otherwise of these pathways in ensuring forest transition is heavily influenced by the country context. The economic development pathway is when economic development creates enough non-farm jobs to cause farmers to abandon their land, thereby inducing forest regeneration and conversion of marginal lands into forests. This is when industrialization and the growth of the service economy drive labor force from agriculture in rural areas to other economic sectors in urban areas. Though this may seem similar to our state of affairs, at our rate of destructive, uncoordinated, and not so sustainable growth in service and industry, this is not a pathway to bank on. Mr. Speaker, in the forest, an increase in forest area occurs in response to the adverse impacts of deforestation and/or a decline in the flow of services provided to society by forest ecosystem. The scarcity of forest products increases their value and prompts governments and landowners to plant trees or establish afforestation programs. Governments are also induced to implement policies to restrict forest exploitation, create protected areas, promote more sustainable management practices, and fuel wood subsidies, invest in forestry research and reforestation programs. Unfortunately, our nation's afforestation programs in the past have been hampered by poor resource allocation and even poorer management of that which is made available as a result of corruption, bushfires, and weak supervision. Ironically, even though we have recorded more gas discoveries over the period, gains attained through fuel wood substitution over the years are gradually eroded by consistent increases in gas prices, which enjoyed a deliberate subsidy. Our inability to modernize thermal oil refinery and the rollback in investment in fuel substitution promotions, such as the distribution of free gas cylinders, are all but few militating against this agenda. Policy on RED Plus, aimed at reducing emissions from deforestation and forest degradation, enhancing forest carbon stocks, sustainable forest management, and conservation of forests, have been at best lethargic. According to Lambin Mayfoyd, 2010, the state forest policy pathway, which is usually government-led, notes how national forest policies are motivated by factors outside and within the forestry sector. Governments play a central role in promoting forest transition in this approach. While the policies may be in part triggered by LMT pathway, the state of forest policy pathway differs by its underlying motivations, which are often factors outside the forestry sector, such as willingness to modernize the economy, integrate marginal social groups, promote tourism or foreign investment by greening the image of the country, assert control over lands through creation of natural reserves, or manage state forests such as in Rwanda. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, the motivation behind why we do what we do is critical, as it determines the outcome of our efforts. The government, led by its Minister of Lands and Natural Resources, Mr. Samuel Abu-Jinapor, 2 months ago, launched the Green Ghana program, which is expected to have at least 5 million trees planted all over the country on Friday, June 11, less than 2 weeks away from today. Even I look forward to the success of this exercise and call on all of us to lend whatever support we can to the effort, I am unable to ignore the insignificance of this exercise if it is not linked to the success. Even as I look forward to the success of this exercise and call on all of us to lend whatever support we can to the effort, I'm unable to ignore the insignificance of this exercise if it is not linked to the creation of natural reserves and the overall effective management and conservation of forest reserves. In 2001, the government initiated a national forest plantation development program in response to the rapid decline of forest resource and anticipated scarcity of forest products, aimed at planting 20,000 hectares per annum. In 2010, the NFPDP was relaunched, expanded, and implemented under different schemes, including the modified Tonga system, etc. These plantations are maintained, and about 15% of them is estimated to have been destroyed through neglect and fires. What will therefore be the fate of the 5 million trees planted if achieved on June 11, a year on? And what structures will be put in place to assist of the exercise 5 years from June 11, 2021? These are questions which answers, I believe, the Minister and team at the Ministry and the Forestry Commission must have already. Even though the exercise of planting 5 million trees in a day may be a step in the right direction, what should follow as a matter of course to make it more meaningful is a strong force towards a forest transition through any of the stated generic pathways, since existing trends, according to research by Odro K. et al. 2015, are either too small scale or too ineffective. Measures that reduce current degradation of closed natural forests, increase the area and productivity of commercial forest plantations, promote sustainable forest management, support and encourage forest conservation and integration of trees into farming systems ought to be aggressively targeted and promoted. This is especially important because, as predicted by Forestry Outlook Study for Africa, FOSA, a decade ago, illegal logging practices continue to ravage our forests due to the existence of effective products. The annual allowable cuts continue to be exceeded yearly. Deforestation rates continue to increase. And due to poor enforcement of environmental laws and regulations by the Environmental Protection Agency, the Minerals Commission and the Forestry Commission, surface mining, both legal and illegal, have intensified, and many forest reserves have become mining fields, where forest cover is destroyed with impediment mental management plans to rehabilitate the degraded areas. Mr. Speaker, the annual planting targets have never been met due to the misapplication of plantation development funds, and the state-owned timber plantations are not being expanded because of same reason, and or poor funding worsened by poor silvicultural treatment given to the planted trees. Mr. Speaker, finally, on June 11, when the nation engages in the planting of at least 5 million trees, it is my earnest appeal that the government and all workers of agencies tasked with the management of our environment commit to doing more and doing better at ensuring that we save our generation and those yet unborn. But there is wisdom always in the often cliche that when the last tree dies, the last man dies. Thank you sincerely, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity.
Honorable members, there is another similar statement from member Honorable Yusuf Suleimana Boy MP on the alarming loss of Ghana forest cover and its impact on our sustenance. So I will invite him to also take the statement, and afterwards we will do the discussion together. So, Honorable Member.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. Mr. Speaker, let me sincerely thank you for another opportunity offered me to make a statement. This statement is motivated by a recent invitation of the Honorable Minister for Lands and Natural Resources in a letter to members of Parliament to participate in the planting of 5 million trees. Mr. Speaker, as a member of the Climate Parliament, I have some knowledge on this subject and wish to share my knowledge with you. Mr. Speaker, statistics from Mongabi shows that in 2000, Ghana had a tree cover of about hectares, representing 26% of our total land area. Between 2001 and 2018, 1,020,659 hectares of this tree cover was lost. By this, we're losing 56,759 hectares per year on average. Interestingly, between 2001 and 2010, the average annual loss was 34,596 hectares. But from 2011 to 2018, this escalated to almost 90,000 hectares per year. The World Bank in 2019 estimated that the net forest depletion valued at $1.57 billion in 2010 rose to $3.134 billion in 2017. Mr. Speaker, in terms of regional performance, and I'm making reference to the then 10 regions, the Western region lost some 337,000 hectares of its tree cover between 2000 and 2018. That is 22,000 hectares per annum. The Ashanti region lost some 242,000 hectares. Western region lost 100,000 within the same period, representing 13,400 and 8,100 hectares per year, respectively. Mr. Speaker, even Upper West and Eastern regions that had a tree cover of just 62, 63, and 18 hectares in 2000 were losing 3 and 1 hectares per year, respectively. In respect of afforestation, Mr. Speaker, between 2010 and 2018, none of our regions saw a positive net change in tree cover. Indeed, it is only the Upper East region that achieved a positive net change. Mr. Speaker, meanwhile, in 2000 and 2010, 6 of the then 10 regions witnessed a positive net change in tree cover. This included Volta, Buna-Ahafo, Greater Accra, Northern, Upper West, and Upper East regions. There has therefore been a reversal of our gains since 2010. It is therefore not surprising, Mr. Speaker, that Ghana was adjudged the country with the largest relative increase in forest loss of 60% from 2017 to 2018 of all tropical countries. The World Resource Institute is my source. Mr. Speaker, even though government disputed this 60%, the 31% that is put out as the true reflection of our forest loss that year is still the highest, is still higher than the worst performing country in the tropical world. Consequently, Mr. Speaker, as things stands, my projections show that in a little over we would have depleted the entire tree cover. The impact of this on us cannot be underrated. Mr. Speaker, environmental science finds that trees are the cheapest avenue for storing carbon emissions, especially rainforests, which host the oldest trees. This, they note, is because the older the tree gets, the more carbon is able to store. Mr. Speaker, latest data from the World Bank indicates that carbon emissions that was growing at 4.7% between 2000 and 2010 is now growing at over 6% per annum. Mr. Speaker, juxtaposing our increasing deforestation with our increasing carbon dioxide emission present a clear picture on our increasing deforestation with our increasing carbon dioxide emission, which present a clear picture on our inability to meet the SDG 13 on combating climate and its impacts. Not only this, Mr. Speaker, we are also aware of the importance of forests or trees to the survival of mankind, diversity, and the ecosystem. Whilst providing food security and economic livelihood to us, the forest is also home to diverse flora and fauna. Mr. Speaker, Mongabe's information shows that Ghana is blessed with 681 species of birds, 89 species of amphibians, 182 species of reptiles, 257 species of mammals, and 3,725 species of vascular plants. At the end of 2018, the same source shows that 21 species of our animals, 23 species of our birds, 119 species of our plants were threatened. And this is attributable to human activities, including deforestation. Mr. Speaker, three main factors are acknowledged by literature to cause deforestation. That is human, institutional, and climate. And this is coming from AMWA and POLI 2020. Human activities such as logging, especially illegally, agriculture, mining, especially galamsey, human settlement, development, and fuel wood collection are the most important or prominent causes in our case. Mr. Speaker, in the South, illegal mining remains the biggest canker in our fight to reverse the growing deforestation. In the North, it is illegal logging and indiscriminate felling of trees for charcoal burning. At the heart of institutional factors are governance and policy failures and corruption, especially of state officers tasked with protecting our forest resources. Mr. Speaker, three of the globe's biggest users of bauxite or bauxite products recently indicated their unwillingness to accept bauxite mined from forests. As for climate factors, the effects of climate change and bushfires are well known. Mr. Speaker, since 1996, a number of reforms from legislative policy to institutional have been instituted. Some of these are promulgation of the Forestry Commission Act, Act 57, removal of duties on imported timber for processing, promulgation of the Forest Protection Amendment Act 2002, amendments to the Timber Resource Management Act, and what have you. Mr. Speaker, most of the reforms have been in place through the 1990s and early 2000s, when deforestation was relatively slow. What has changed is the replacement of the 1994 Forestry and Wildlife Policy and its accompanying master plan with the 2012 Policy and its master plan. So there's a change there, and that has resulted into this escalating deforestation that we are seeing. Mr. Speaker, my first recommendation, therefore, is that government should conduct a comparative review of the two policies. This is to allow her ascertain the differences and probably lacuna in this current policy that has prevented it from restraining the escalating deforestation. The formation of anti-ministerial committee to reconcile and rationalize policies on environmental conservation is the second recommendation. Third, the formation of proper and efficient interinstitutional relationships to facilitate work of the Forestry Commission. This could take the form of partnership between the Commission, local assemblies, traditional authorities, and the media. Four, the expansion of the current LPG programs, which involve distributing cylinders and stoves to households. These programs will curtail dependency on charcoal and firewood burning. The fifth one is the promulgation of clearly defined policies on customary land terms and enforcing policies on land use planning and allocation of concessions. Mr. Speaker, it must be emphasized that statements on deforestation and the environment are not new in this House, just as we have seen even this morning. But it is worth it. The data presented above shows clearly that we are headed towards trouble if nothing is done. Mr. Speaker, I therefore pray that you will use your good office to direct the appropriate agencies to act more definitively. In that regard, the above recommendations will be very, very helpful. Mr. Speaker, let me once again thank you for admitting this statement at this crucial moment. God bless you.
Thank you, honorable members, Honorable Suhini and Honorable Suleimana. Let me invite contributors. Honorable member for Kote, Kole Klote.
Thank you very much, Right Honourable Speaker, for the opportunity to contribute to the statements made by our colleagues. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to make a few comments on some of the statements that were made, starting with the fact that with regards to the Department of Parks and Gardens, if you actually pay a visit to the Parks and Gardens, you will actually feel so sad. That place should actually epitomize what the Parks and Gardens Department is capable of. And as previously mentioned by another colleague, they are so under-resourced. Mr. Speaker, as part of the mandate of the Department of Parks and Gardens, they are meant to work hand in hand with the Ministry of Roads and Highways whenever roads are being constructed. We've had several new roads constructed in the urban and rural settings, and no trees have been planted alongside. You don't see the maintenance of the shrubs being done properly, because Parks and Gardens, as previously mentioned, is terribly under-resourced. Mr. Speaker, as we go towards the drive of children owning trees and everybody being expected to plant trees, there is a body that's mandated to do this and should be resourced to ensure that the maintenance of these trees is guaranteed. Because if you plant a tree and you nurture it, it will die before it reaches maturation. And so, Mr. Speaker, even as we have the conversations here, we should look at how we can really enable this department to perform its function. With regards to the issue of forests, I'm in Kote Kole, which is a coastal constituency. And when people refer to forests, they normally think about the forest in the hinterland. But there are mangrove forests as well. The mangroves are the ones that exist on the coastline and the estuaries. And these are plants that actually exist in salty conditions. They form 1% of the world's flora, but according to a UN study, 25% of mangroves have already been destroyed. Mr. Speaker, as we look at a drive regarding how to preserve our coastline and prevent erosion along our water bodies, the issue of what kind of plants are being cultivated, are being planted in the various areas in the urban and rural settings, mangroves should not be left out of the equation. These provide the kind of biodiversity that supplies the food chain for terrestrial and aquatic life. As a result, Mr. Speaker, in looking at the kind of regards to the greening project, mangrove is part of how to preserve our coastline, especially for the coastal constituencies. And it's not just about coconuts, but mangroves exist as a forest. And like the forest that we know of traditionally, they also lock in carbon emissions. They're also very effective at providing sources of wood. And more than that, they provide a source of living for the communities in which they grow. So, Mr. Speaker, as we discuss the issues of afforestation and the extent at which we're losing our forest cover, we must also look at the fact that there are certain protected forests in Ghana where mining, not just illegal, but mandated by the state, mining is being permitted. Mr. Speaker, mineral resources are finite. Some of the trees that are being chopped down for the sake of the extraction of mineral resources have taken thousands of years to grow. And to say that we are going to replant the trees is simplistic, because we are looking to say we are solving a problem that will not be solved in our lifetime or for generations to come. We can see the global temperatures rising, sea levels are rising. There are islands where the inhabitants have had to be relocated because they're losing their habitation. And so if we have established forests, we can make a choice as a nation not to extract the mineral wealth in those particular protected forests. How we can use renewable resources that can provide an income for our nation going forward. And that is why looking at the issues regarding the use of agriculture and agribusiness and really putting money into that particular sector so that it generates an incoming revenue is important. Mr. Speaker, there's also the forbidden topic on the generation or the culture. Mr. Speaker, we worked on legislation here with regards to cannabis amongst other such crops and drugs. However, what people sometimes fail to realize is that the cannabis plant has different parts of it, and not every part of the plant is hallucinogenic. The fibers from the cannabis plant are actually being used in vehicles like the BMW and Bugatti as we speak now. This is something that was done in the early 20th century by Henry Ford, and it's now being done now. There are certain companies that are using the cellulose that can be taken from that as biodegradable plastics, as an alternative to plastics. So as we look at restoring the fauna, the vegetation on the planet, we should also look at crops that will actually help us to follow through on the environment and saving ourselves from the deluge of plastics that we're faced with. We're entering the rainy season, and some of us in low-lying constituencies are very concerned. And as we have these discussions, let's also look at practical ways in which we can protect our environment, look at the use of reusable resources, and decrease the use of single-use plastics. Thank you very much for the opportunity, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Honourable Member. Honourable Member for Biawese.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity. It appears that we have really been schooled about the environment this morning and the issues regarding parks and gardens, the ecosystem, the tree cover, and the eminent afforestation that is required for us to really have an health that belongs to us. Mr. Speaker, in the days that I went to secondary school, I was a pure art student, studying history, literature, religion, but St. Thomas Aquinas Secondary School required every student to study biology. And you know, there are all kinds of things you study biology. The last topic was ecology. And I learned about the ecosystem, where the symbiotic relationship between humans, plants, water bodies are all converged into a holistic picture of us living well as a result of our interdependence with each other. Interestingly, I also come from a tropical area, rainforest, the Western North region. And I'm surrounded by the Gaboso forest, by the Adabukrum forest, and the Asumura forest. But inside my own district and constituency is the Bia National Forest, which actually is a UNESCO designated forest. And we have elephants and chimpanzees and some rare animals there.
Besides, we have trees that are over 100 years and significantly rare that can be found in our country. Unfortunately, the activities of humans now continue to destroy the efforts as outlined broadly. But I'm speaking as somebody who is experiencing these things in my own context. And so logging, while we need the wood to roof our buildings and so forth, in the Bia district, they are destroying the forest. We have people who had made roads into the forest. They have these tricycles. They take the logs and they are sending it to Mali, Burkina Faso, and other places. Again, we also have farming activities inside the forest, the protected forest. People go there to do a lot of illegal things, including even cultivating marijuana inside the forest that nobody sees. But before you know it, the big trees and everything, they are cut down. Next, burning, bushfires. It's a very recurrent annual issue that we fight in my district. Hunters go into this forest and they set fires, and who knows what happens after that. So all of these things are destroying the forest cover and destroying our water bodies. The issue is what has been presented this morning is not a theory from somewhere. I'm glad that they back them up with data from various sources to indicate that the Sahara is coming down, and as a result, the opportunities we have to live is getting limited, because the adage is the day the last tree dies is the day that the last human also dies. So, Mr. Speaker, I ask urgently that we should look even into developing urban forests. The forests we had in far away remote places like in Bia. Here we have Atimota forest. We talk about the Dodowa forest with nostalgia. But where is the Dodowa forest now? Our cities are, and they are encroaching on these forest areas actively. And so we must make deliberate efforts within the catchment areas of our developing cities so that we have urban forests. Just immediately you leave the city, you can see this forest, and that's going to sustain us. Also, we need to have our religious bodies to participate in the processes. The major religions that we have in our country, African traditional religion, is big on the environment that Onyankopon, the God of the universe, gave us. If you come to the Christians, in the beginning God created the heavens and the earth. The earth was created by God. How are we taking good care of the earth that Yahweh gave us? If you come to Islam, the same thing. So the idea is then our pulpits and our mosques should also make considerable efforts to ensure that education about our environment is paramount in their teachings. We are using a lot of the land to plant cocoa, therefore we cut the big trees down and we grow these little shrubs. We can make serious efforts to ensure that we are able to have shaded cocoa trees so that big trees can still to help us with our rainfall. Besides, the challenge we have is when we cut down these trees, they don't plant trees in their place. These logging companies have concessions and indiscriminately just cut the trees down. We need to continue to impress upon the companies that any tree they cut down, they must plant new trees to replace them, so that in the next 50 years, the generation that comes after us will be able to have some trees to live on, and also for the afforestation to be addressed. Mr. Speaker, again, I thank you very much for the opportunity, and I sincerely thank my colleagues for presenting the issue and bringing it to attention. Thank you.
Yes, Honorable Member for Obuakwa South.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker, for the opportunity to contribute to the cocktail of statements, 3 of them, which converge on the same point, environmental sanity. Right Honorable Speaker, I am particularly elated that the Minister for Lands and Natural Resources, at the behest of the President, has launched a very audacious policy and action that on the 11th day of June this year, the whole nation should plant a minimum of 5 million trees. Right Honorable Speaker, this foresight will go a long way to make up for the loss of the depletion of our forest reserves and the rest of them because of neglect in the first instance and also illegal mining activities. Right Honorable Speaker, as Honorable Suhini rightly stated, it is one thing to plant, it is another thing to nurture, so that in the fullness of time, we'll have a very solid and forest cover, which has a lot of implications for Ghana. If you pay regard to the depletion of the ozone layer, it's got to do with how the rays of the sun, without any interference from forest cover, can even have very corrosive effect on our health. So when we plant, what it means is that the direct rays of the sun and oxygen flow and all the other factors will come to inure to the benefit of mankind. I am also excited that the culture of planting trees is also being inculcated in our children's activity of June 11th. Children will be involved in the planting of trees across the length and breadth of the country. Now let's question the Forestry Commission. Is there any lapses and professional challenges that they are going through, which is resulting in the decreasing nature of our forest cover? We should look at the law that gives them their existence. And if there are any lapses, let's amend the law so that it is like a policy. When they bring budgets for our consideration, we should scrutinize that how much of your money is going to go to increase the forest cover of this great country of ours. It is very, very important that we look at this. But I'm a bit excited about the competition between profit and environmental sanity. Honorable Speaker, with your kind permission, I'd like to quote Honorable Suhini, who was trying to roll the numbers, because I am of the view that if you have such a profit motive in felling timber, you might, without replacing them, the tendency is that money will be your sole motivation at the expense of the environment. This is what Honorable Suhini said. Mr. Speaker, the forestry sector in 1990, just a couple of decades ago, accounted for 4.2% of national GDP, and timber was the country's third largest foreign exchange earner. Timber and wood products earnings totaled 140 million United States dollars in 1993 and 202 million United States dollars by November 1994. Well, that is money, but don't we have a policy that if you want to fell one timber, you have an obligation to plant at least a minimum of 3. If we had such a program and it's been policed properly by the authorities, then this issue will not arise. Let me say a few things about parks and gardens, and then I resume my seat. Honorable Speaker, even parks and gardens at University of Ghana, Legon, where people who believe in the powers of prayers recline, and they used to go under the cover of the greenery and with decent concrete sitting arrangements to wait on God. Now, we do not see these things being part and parcel of our lives. Where is the best place to go and do some good reading? Is it only in the library? So the concept of Parks and Garden, which was part of the program of Asadi for Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, has seen an embarrassingly low decline. And we should revamp Parks and Gardens for one simple reason, that it could be an immense recreational center for those who want to relax from the humdrum and hustle and bustle of city life. Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker, for the opportunity to contribute to the statements.
Thank you. Honourable Member for... Come again?
Sola Tuna Kalba.
Sola. Okay.
Yes, Honourable Speaker.
Andrew, yes.
I should thank you, Mr. Speaker, for this opportunity to comment on these wonderful statements, well-researched statements made by Honourable Alhaji Soini and, of course, my brother, Honourable Alhaji Suleimana. Right Honourable Speaker, all that they mentioned in their statements are facts. And as a country, we will have to take a cue from their statements and henceforth move forward positively. Mr. Speaker, it's on record that Ghana has about 9.6 million hectares of forest cover, which is about 42% of our land area. However, Mr. Speaker, over the last 100 years, the depletion of the forest is on a very fast rate. It is on record that in only 2018, Ghana, we lost about 60% of our forest area. Mr. Speaker, this is in a very alarming rate. Mr. Speaker, Ghana is among the countries losing their forest zone in a very fast rate. We have a country like Nigeria, which is on a very high situation. We have the Philippines, we have Ghana, and then Indonesia and Nepal going down. Mr. Speaker, the good thing is that all is not lost. All is not lost because there has been an initiative to plant about 5 million trees. We only have to take this as an advantage to ensure that we improve on what we have. Mr. Speaker, there are countries with very good records that we can learn from. The reports from the Washington Post indicate Russia is the world leader of trees, with about 642 billion trees. The Speaker, Russia is followed by Canada with 318 billion trees. The third country is Brazil, which has about 302 billion trees. And the fourth is the United States of America with 228 billion trees. This was reported on the 18th of May 2020. Right Honourable Speaker, these are good records that as a country we should learn from. The Honourable Member, Suhini Alhaji, he indicated that when the last tree dies, the last man dies. Should we watch on for our forest to be depleted? Should we sit down and watch the last tree to die before, even by then we won't be alive? Because as the trees continue to die, we will also be dying one by one. And so, Right Honourable Speaker, as a house that makes laws, may we ensure that all the laws that we make concerning or protecting our environment we ensure that those laws are implemented to the letter. Mr. Speaker, we have a lot of people that burn the forest and they go scot-free. People go into the forest, fell trees, and the story, you read about them, and I don't know, they don't know what punishment that they met out to those people. Illegal mining going on. Well, Mr. Speaker, I come from the Savannah region. The joy I have is that the Savannah Regional House of Chiefs recently took a very firm decision. They have banned commercial charcoal burning in the Savannah region. And they have banned logging too in the Savannah region. So, Mr. Speaker, let me take this opportunity to congratulate the Savannah Regional House of Chiefs and to thank them for the initiative. Once we have the traditional leaders implementing such hard decisions, I think as a government or as people who make the law, if we support such initiatives, our forests will be safe. If not for us, but for the future. Mr. Speaker, Honorable Suhina again mentioned that it is one thing planting and another nurturing. Let's all ensure that the 5 million trees that will be planted, we take care of them, not for ourselves, but for the future. Let me once again appreciate you for the opportunity and congratulate the makers of the statement for their well-researched statement. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Honorable Member for Sisala East.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I want to associate myself to a statement ably made by the Member of Parliament for Tamale North and the Member of Parliament for Balo Bomboy. Mr. Speaker, forests and forest products are very critical in sustaining human lives. But the unfortunate situation in which we find ourselves, I will say, is due to our attitude. In various spheres of our lives, citizens think they have right to the exploitation of natural resources. But what they forget to know is the responsibility that comes with the exercise of their rights. We cannot, as a country, say that citizens should not exploit natural resources for their existence, but in doing so, they must exercise their right to utilizing these natural resources so that we can conserve and protect our forests for generations now and generations unborn. Mr. Speaker, forest degradation has so many consequences. The more forests that we destroy, and we can be sure that wildlife will equally be destroyed. As a very young man, some of the common animals we used to find around our homes and villages, today, when you go around, you don't find because of degradation of our forest. And I am sure if nothing is done, very soon we may have to be importing ordinary animals that we could find in the environment, like rabbits, grass cutters, among others, into the country, because as we continue to deplete the environment, we continue to lose these animals in our forest. Mr. Speaker, Ghana as a country is much dependent on agriculture. Our economy is driven by agriculture. Majority of our citizens are in the agricultural value chain. And our agriculture is also rain-fed dependent. Most of the farming activities that we carry out depends on natural rainfall. And we also know that there is a direct relationship between forest cover and the amount of rainfall that we experience on a yearly basis. So if we are to ensure that our farmers continue to get this natural rainfall so that they can continue their farming activities in order to survive economically, then we have a duty to protect the environment so that we can continue to experience rainfall for farmers to be able to farm and to be able to survive economically. Mr. Speaker, as a country, we must certainly take proactive steps in reversing the situation. But in some of the steps that we have to take, there must be collaboration between central government and local government authorities. For instance, we all know that farming activities, indiscriminate bush burning, and irresponsible utilization of forest resources are major reasons that have led to the situation we find ourselves. And so the Ministry of Land cannot, at the center, regulate and ensure that things are done properly at the local level. So my suggestion is that the ministry will have to collaborate with local government ministry so that they can engage the local assemblies, who can also in turn collaborate with chiefs and opinion leaders at the local level so that local people can adopt appropriate farming methods and stop indiscriminate bush burning so that we can conserve our forest. Mr. Speaker, we must also take proactive steps in value addition to our forest products. If we add value to our forest products, then the tendency of reducing the high utilization of forest products will also be occasioned. And once we add more value to the forest products, we are going to earn more money, and so we'll reduce the rate at which we destroy the forest. Mr. Speaker, let me also take this opportunity to thank young Minister for Lands and Natural Resources for this positive step that he has taken in trying to ensure that as a country we plant 5 million trees as one of the major steps in ensuring that we recover and reclaim our destroyed forest. But he cannot do it alone. As members of Parliament, we need to get to our constituencies and support this project so that the 5 million trees that will be supplied to the various districts and various assemblies, we can ensure that our people support the project and protect whatever plantation that is done so that the 5 million trees can survive, and I'm sure in the next 10 years, the narrative will be different. Mr. Speaker, to conclude, I also want to suggest that the attitude of all of us, Ghanaians, also needs to be looked at. When people are exploiting natural resources, the feeling is that it is for the state. It is not his property. People don't care because they think that they must serve their parochial interest. We must change our attitude towards natural resources, make sure that in exploiting those natural resources, we will do it within the confines of the law. And I'm confident that once we change our attitude in the way we handle and treat natural resources and national property, the narrative will change. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity to contribute.
Thank you, Honorable Member. Honorable Busa. Have you spoken this morning? Anyway, I've called you, so you.
Mr. Speaker, I've spoken this morning, and thanks for giving me the opportunity. I plead that you allow Mr. Adams to speak after me. Mr. Speaker, thanks for giving me the opportunity to speak and to congratulate members who have made various statements, particularly to do with our forest cover and specifically greening Ghana. Greening Ghana is a good idea. planting 5 million trees on the 11th of June 2021, which happens to be the day I was born. It's a good idea. But, Mr. Speaker, is it not a better idea for us to also focus on protecting what we already have? And I believe this is where I have felt the need to speak yet again. Mr. Speaker, as we speak, the Savannah Ecological Zone continues to be pillaged by illegal loggers. Mr. Speaker, those here who are familiar with my advocacy to protect the endangered root species from the 7th Parliament should be reminded that it still continues. Unfortunately, the criminals have now added 2 other species of trees from the Savannah Ecological Zone. Our shade trees and the other trees are also being endangered by the same pillages. Mr. Speaker, I fail to understand why trucks can go all the way from Tema Harbour to places like Sisala West, Sisala East, Busa North, South, Yarmakubori, and transport tree species that are supposed to be banned, whose cutting are supposed to be illegal, and pass through all the police checkpoints to Tema Harbour and be shipped out of the country. Clearly, this is as a result of official complicity. So as we are speaking today about winning Ghana, let me also use the opportunity to urge the powers that be and all of us to also put in maximum effort to be happy. We can't just plant trees. We're not going to solve the problem. We must first protect what we have. And if we have to protect what we have, the laws must work. Official complicity must stop. Those who are benefiting from the destruction of our forests and our savanna ecological zones must feel ashamed and stop the destruction of our environment. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable members, let me invite the Deputy Minister Designate for Lands and Natural Resources to also contribute, and afterwards we will come to the leadership.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I will want to thank the various members who have made statements and also have contributed this morning. Mr. Speaker, the Minister for Lands and Natural Resources, the Honorable Samuel Abujinapo, has sent a message that he wished he was present here this morning to also add his voice. As we speak now, the Minister is in a conference in Moscow, Russia, where they are discussing extractive minerals and the way forward to sustainability. Mr. Speaker, and so he has WhatsApped me his contribution, and with your permission, I want to deliver it to the House. Mr. Speaker, I would like to thank the Honourable Member for Tamale North, Honourable Alhassan Suhini, and Honourable Suleiman for their comprehensive statement on the forestry sector and for supporting the Green Ghana initiative by the Minister for Lands and Natural Resources, Honourable Samuel Abujinapo, a Member of Parliament for Damango constituency. Mr. Speaker, the government of Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo is making significant contributions to improve the forestry sector in Ghana, especially to address most of the challenges mentioned by the honourable members. The government, through the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources and other partners are tackling the major challenges in the forestry sector through the following four strategies. 1, protecting and securing the forest resources. 2, massive landscape restoration. 3, promoting collaborative resource management. And then 4, improving benefit sharing schemes and flow of forest benefits to the resource owners. Mr. Speaker, in protecting the forest and wildlife resources, the government has intensified law enforcement in the forestry sector and is strengthening the legislative and regulatory. In 2017, Parliament passed the Timber Resource Management and Legality Licensing Regulation 2017 LI 2254 to regulate timber rights allocation and also regulate sources of timber and other matters. The ministry is also currently working on the Wildlife Resource Management Bill, which seeks to consolidate all wildlife laws and improve the sanction regime to ensure effective wildlife management in Ghana. The bill will soon come to this August House for passage into law. Mr. Speaker, for the first time in several years, the ministry has currently completed the conversion of over 125 timber leases into timber utilization contract, TUCs, as prescribed by law. And this will also come to Parliament for ratification soon. Mr. Speaker, with regards to landscape restoration, the government has since 2017 embarked on massive afforestation schemes, which builds on past of previous governments. The government in 2017 introduced the Youth in Afforestation Scheme, which has employed over 45,000 youth who are undertaking planting and maintenance of many planted areas across the country, and also engage in fire management in some fire-prone areas. Mr. Speaker, the government is also promoting private investment in commercial forest plantations, and this is very impressive. The ministry, through the Ghana Forest Investment Program, GFIP, has secured a loan of $7 million, which was approved by the previous parliament, to support small-scale forest plantation development. This is an innovative scheme because our commercial banks normally will not give loans due to the long gestation period, and tree growers are not also ready to take loans at high interest rates. Mr. Speaker, the ministry has also undertaken a transformational policy reform that seeks to motivate farmers to keep trees on their farms without destroying them during land preparation. This is the tree tenure and benefit sharing scheme, which will soon be rolled out. Similarly, we are promoting climate-smart cocoa production by providing free seedlings to cocoa farmers to plant at least 18 trees per hectare of their cocoa farms to increase the tree stock. Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Minister Designate, hold on a bit. Honorable members, the time is around 2 o'clock, and I respectfully direct that is extended beyond 2 o'clock. Minister, I can continue.
It is a response to the statement. Mr. Speaker, the government is also implementing other interventions to address the issues of deforestation and forest degradation, and these include the Red Grass Program, Cocoa and Forest Initiative, CFI, the Community Resource Management Areas, CRIMES, to promote participatory collaborative forest management. Mr. Speaker, in accordance with the vision of His Excellency the President, the Minister for Lands and Natural Resources Honorable Samuel Abujinapo, has introduced the Green Ghana project, which seeks to plant and nurture 5 million trees on June 11th. The Green Ghana Day, as part of a master plan of the Green Ghana project, which seeks to restore the forest cover of Ghana. On Friday, 28th May, last week Friday, the minister, together with the Minister of Education and the Ghana Education Service, launched the One Student, One Tree initiative at Accra High School, which seeks to encourage all students across the country to actively participate in the Green Ghana Day by planting on June 11 and also inculcate in them the culture of tree planting and nurturing. Mr. Speaker, the minister, by this statement and comment, invites this August House to actively participate in this important national exercise to contribute significantly to the realization of His Excellency, the President's vision to build a sustainable, environmentally sound and green Ghana. Seedlings for the planting exercise can be obtained from all regions and district forestry offices, district assemblies, and designated areas, which will be published by the end of this week. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, honorable members. I will now go to the leadership. So if the leader is minded to yield to any other member, you are permitted to do that. But it's now time for leadership.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity to make few comments on the three statements ably made by the three distinguished honorable colleagues. Mr. Speaker, these three statements are very serious statements. They are annually made in this House. Mr. Speaker, in that regard, I will opine that we move from the lamentations of Isaiah and try to actualize or take pragmatic steps to be able to curtail the annual rate of desertification, which is crippling southwards, which I think is 5 annually. Mr. Speaker, I will start with the first statement which was made in connection with parks and gardens. And the Speaker will remember that when we were passing the 2021 budget and financial economic statement of the Republic of Ghana in this House, in the budget of the local government, Committee of Local Government and Rural Development, we lamented about the insignificant amount of money that was allocated to the Parks and Gardens Department. Mr. Speaker, today we are crying about Parks and Gardens. Where your heart is, that is where your treasure is. Mr. Speaker, we are saying that the Parks and Gardens is a dilapidated state. Even the vehicle that they use to water even their flowers in this country, they have only one, which according to them is about 40 years old. And they were looking for a budget to go and repair it. Even the Speaker, you can't underfund the department and try to blame them of their inefficiency. The Speaker, secondly, the locations of the parks and gardens nationwide are always in prime areas. Go and see the rate at which the parks and garden department lands are being encroached upon. Very soon they will become landless, and parks and gardens will exist on paper. I don't want to believe that government is deliberately underfunding them, so that when the trees are no more, then the department will not exist, then the lands can be taken over. I don't want to believe that. That is the case. But Mr. Speaker, the Department of Parks and Gardens was established for a reason, so that certain particular kind of tree species can be bought there and go and be planted nationwide.
That, not only that, Mr. Speaker, it falls under the Ministry of Local Government and Rural Development. But ask yourself, Mr. Speaker, out of the 264 metropolitan, municipal, and district assemblies that we have nationwide, how many of them even have parks and gardens? Most of them don't even have. Apart from the districts that were created in the 1980s, the old traditional districts, Mr. Speaker, the new ones they don't even have. And those that have those departments of parks and gardens, the lands have been encroached upon, and certain mansions are proliferating in those areas. Those lands to people to build in those areas. If parks and gardens is dear to our heart. So we cannot be lamenting when we know that that department, the lands are being taken away from them. Mr. Speaker, not only that, we've been planting trees, and if you read the statement by the Honorable Member for Bole Bamboy, he said 2017-2018, the forest cover, the rate attribute will 1%, and we are one of the fastest. Mr. Speaker, if that is the case, what are we doing? I remember that it was during that time.
Hold on.
It was during that time.
Hold on, Honorable Leader. I think the Minister would like to chip in something.
Sorry, Mr. Speaker, I am not the Minister.
Deputy Minister Designate, sorry.
I am aware of Article 79, so I want to draw your attention to that fact. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the leader in making his contribution has raised and made a comment and a statement to the fact that we lost 60% of our forest between 2017 and 2018. Mr. Speaker, that is not the case. And can the honorable member furnish this good house with the information and where he got that information? Because even in 1983, when this nation was ravaged by bushfire, we never lost 60% of our forest cover. So that is completely false. Thank you.
Mr. Speaker, I'm not surprised the Deputy Minister came with a prepared statement from his boss to read, instead of commenting on the statement that was presented on the floor here. Mr. Speaker, the statement that you say you should comment on, this 60% forest loss is written there. He failed to comment on it and read the one that his minister prepared for him to come and read. And if you didn't read, let me read for you to hear. I'm not saying anything new. Mr. Speaker, the statement by the Honorable Member for Bole Bamboy reads like this. Mr. Speaker, it is therefore not surprising, Mr. Speaker, that Ghana was adjudged the country with the largest relative increase in forest loss of 60% from 2017 to 2018. It is there. Mr. Speaker, I'm not saying it. You said we should comment on the statement, and I'm commenting on it. You read on it and read your minister's write-up. Anyway, Mr. Speaker, let's make progress. Mr. Speaker, I'm commenting on the statement. It is written there. The Speaker has admitted that. They said comment, you didn't comment on that portion. Mr. Speaker, secondly, it was in 2017-2018 that the over 45,000 forest housing workers were employed to work in the tree planting exercise of the Forestry Commission. Mr. Speaker, if really we employed over 45,000 people to work in this area, and each was to plant even
Mr. Speaker, 120 trees. We could have been boasting of over 5 million trees that we are talking about. Mr. Speaker, these are the critical issues. How were the 45,000 people employed in the Forestry Commission? Mr. Speaker, you and I were in this house. Were you aware? You go to your constituency, and Mr. Speaker, the discouraging aspect of it, and the reason why sometimes those tree planters are not sustainable is this. The people are perceived to be sympathizers of a political party. You go there, if you don't belong there and you want to work there, it's like job for the boys. Critically, if we are going to plant 5 million trees, let's together, both parties, both sides, all of us as Ghanaians, your climate change does not discriminate. This is the way to go. If you don't do that, then you perceive the work as if it's a political program. Mr. Speaker, you cannot achieve your aim. So I'm calling on the minister and his agencies and departments that climate change does not know whether you belong to the umbrella fraternity or the elephant fraternity. Change does not discriminate. Therefore, as a country, we must come together to make sure that we plant trees and take it seriously. Mr. Speaker, yesterday when I was returning from my constituency, when I got to Techiman, we are in June, I was looking for new yams. Mr. Speaker, the rainfall pattern in Techiman has changed. Now, if you are looking for new yam in Techiman, you want to Ofinso, meaning from the northern belt, the transitional zone, the rainfall pattern is decreasing, and therefore the certification is coming. Looking for new tubers of yam in Techiman in this time. If you can't get and you have to come to Ofinso, gradually it will get to a time unless you come further downwards.
Leader, hold on once again. Deputy Minister designate.
Mr. Speaker, I wouldn't have got up again to interject my leader, but for the fact that leaders, the youth in a forestation program is political. Mr. Speaker, that to me is very unfair. It is a very good program, and the selection of the youth and the participants were done by the various district assemblies. No member of parliament or politician was involved in the selection. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Leader, you may continue, but yes.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm just about 1 year. Mr. Speaker, technically, I will not comment on that aspect. If a DCE is to employ people to go and work in youth in a forestation program, Mr. Speaker, your guess is as good as mine.
You employ the party people.
Mr. Speaker, the transitional zone is suffering. If care is not taken from rainfall, good rainfall, if care is not taken, the government policy of planting for food and jobs in 2021 will be a failure, because it depends on rain-fed agriculture. And Mr. Speaker, we are in June. If you go around the Bono Ahafo region, going upward, even the Ashanti region, you will not see the new maize. You will not see anywhere. They are now planning areas to go and grow maize. Mr. Speaker, and this is why I look at it, these statements are being very critical, that we must all be supportive in the tree plantation, and government must veer from that path and rather include all parties. Make sure that you have every sectorial representation in the youth in afforestation program, so that, Mr. Speaker, everybody will participate. In the olden days, where even laws were not there, they were relying on customary laws and they were having forest reserves. Is that the case now? Are we underestimating the importance of even the medicinal use of the forest species, tree species we have in the forest? If we sit down and all these things are depleted, and every time all we say is, oh, we are doing tree plantation, as if you are joking with it. You can't plant a tree and without taking care of it and expect it to create a forest. These are critical areas, Mr. Speaker. While I thank you for the opportunity given to me, I once again want to call on the Deputy Minister Designate that when he's sending the feedback about the report that he has read here to his boss, that boss, I read your statement, he should add that we wish him well, and I know he has taken the first bold step. If you go to Savannah, charcoal burning has been banned. Mr. Speaker, it is true. And once the minister has been able to do that in his own region, I want to have some feeling and belief that if he's able to add bringing the both political device on board, he will excel in greening the Ghana that he wants to do. And Mr. Speaker, he is also a minister who is able to confiscate his party's woman organizers' Galamsey site in the forest. This shows that he means business. Mr. Speaker, did we know that when we were reading statements upon statements, that the concessions have been allocated to political powers to mine? Did we? But he is not afraid. But then, and Mr. Speaker, me sitting here as NDC MP, if the MPP minister is able to confiscate his own party people, then it tells me that I must look sharp. Now, if I don't look sharp and he gets even me out, it will not be only burning my excavators. It will amount to arranging me before the law court. The law applied 100% with me. Mr. Speaker, I commend the minister for doing that.
So you are condoning the burning.
Mr. Speaker, did we know? I know there are others in the forest. And the good news is that the minister has sent a signal that all those with those concessions, when the Bole Bamwe MP was reading, he said the question is human settlement, human activities. The greed and desire for political power is one of the causes of deforestation. Where political boys are told that the party needs money. The party needs money. Oh, you can pay. When we come to power, we will allow you to enter the forest and do this.
Leader,
these
may
are
you wind up?
Depart from.
Leader, may you wind up?
Mr. Speaker, in winding up, Mr. Speaker, I just want to commend the minister. He who plans well deserves a push. And also to call on any political appointee or any office holder who is having a concession that we are stewards of those extractive resources. And we're given the mandate to take care of them, not to exploit them to our parochial or individual or selfish needs. On that note, Mr. Speaker, I thank you for the opportunity and wish that the members of the statement should not let it end here. They must bring a plan to make sure that, Mr. Speaker, we are able to make critical and stringent laws to be able to curtail the massive deforestation that we have in the country. So that in cases like this, we'll be able to know, even if the executive doesn't or the court doesn't run after you, parties will move a motion here. And together, we can come together to sanction or impeach any minister who does not take deforestation and money in the forest and other things seriously. Mr. Speaker, with this few comments, I thank you for the opportunity.
Yes, Honorable Deputy Majority Whip.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. And I want to thank the maker of the statement. Green Ghana and afforestation is a national issue that we all ought to take very seriously. But it must be on record that statements that are being made and read on the floor of Parliament by members in terms of figures or statistics being put out is not a gospel. It can be challenged, and members should not assume that if a member reads his statement and make pronunciation on certain percentage like what was done by Honorable Sohini in his statement. Even in 1983, when we had a wild bushfire in Ghana, our forest reserve didn't lose by about 60%, not to talk about now. And it must be on record, Mr. Speaker, that at the moment, we don't need laws. Like my right colleague said, afforestation...
Honorable Leader, hold on. Honorable Member for Boribamboy.
Mr. Speaker, I want to put on record that the 60% that he's making reference to is what I put out there and not Honorable Sweeney. That should be on record. And it is also important to state that as I stand here, I'm a research student. And so what I've done is to do a thorough research and to put out the facts. You can challenge the facts, you're not challenging me. The source is out there. So if you think that the source, the facts are not, the source is wrong, you can't challenge that. Let us be fair to ourselves. In that statement, I also stated that the Ghana government issued a statement saying that the 60% was debatable and that what they know of is 31%. And I also put out there that the 31% is still the highest in the continent. So whether the 60 is right or is wrong, we are still leading when it comes to the placing of our forest land. And that's how you have to accept. Thank you.
Yes, Honorable Leader.
I think the maker of the statement has clarified himself, and I don't think he's actually relying on the 60% as he attributed in his statement. Mr. Speaker, just to add that, like my right honorable colleague, the leader said, that we need to make serious laws to be able to handle some of these issues of invading our forests. I think the Constitution is very clear in these issues, and we don't need to make any laws. We only need to implement it. If you look at Article 268 of the 1992 Constitution and Article 269, it is very clear. Because Article 268 talk about anybody who try to invade our forests definitely need to come to Parliament for us to look at it. And Article 269 talk about us establishing commissions like the Minerals Commission, the Forestry Commission, and other to be able to look at this. Mr. Speaker, the importance of forests cannot actually be overemphasized because it provides shelter for animals, it provides or it regulates temperature on the environment and a whole lot. So at the moment, we all applaud the minister for his giant step, but we should not make it look like the minister wants to start his work by MPP executive. The minister is committed and he is determined to be able to end illegal mining. And by so doing, anybody who is involved will definitely be handled. But it does not mean necessarily that he wants to start by handling the National Women Organizer as alleged to send a deterrent to the others. That is not the case. But it is a good note that the minister has started, and in his own region, where the member of parliament from Boale is from, charcoal burning have been banned. Yes, it is going to be extended to other regions. That is going to help our country. Honorable Mutala here will bear in mind that tree planting and the forestry is something that we even adore as Muslims. And it has also been said in our religion that if you plant a tree,
you will reap the reward until eternity. Because anybody who sits under the tree, you get a reward for it. Any animal who is fed on the tree, you get a reward on it. So it is a national exercise that on the 11th of June, that the Minister for Land and Natural Resources has initiated. Let's take it. And I think that on that day, the Speaker and other people should try to let members of Parliament who are leaders from our constituencies to take the lead on the planting of trees in our constituency. I don't think it will be out of place if on the 11th of June, we members of Parliament are either going out to various constituencies to join our constituents to be able to help Ghana move forward. Because this government is very committed in preserving our forests. This government is very committed in fighting illegal activities that affect our forests. That is why the youth in afforestation project that is alleged to be partisan was never partisan. Nobody was asked to bring a party membership card before you were employed. Nobody was asked to bring your member of parliament before you were employed. It is a perception we have, but that is not the case. And for that matter, Mr. Speaker, I want to thank the maker of this statement and also to conclude by saying that the parks and gardens, as we have discussed, we definitely need to defer or refer this issue to the Committee on Local Government to visit our parks and gardens and report back so that we will see the state and the nature of the parks and gardens we have. I remember when we used to be kids, we were looking for parks and gardens guest houses so that we could go, and sleep there. But at the moment, it doesn't exist anymore. So a lot needs to be done with regards to that. And I will encourage and will wish if the Speaker could direct this issue to the committee government. With this, I thank the maker and I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much. Honorable Leader, do you still want to?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Honorable Chief Whip says that we should visit parks and gardens in our districts. I don't have parks and gardens in my district. So where am I going to visit? Direct me so that I can visit there. Because I don't have.
Honorable Leader, well noted. Honorable members, let me indulge you to the last statement. And the statement is on sanitation and water supply for Ghana's rural and lower income communities. The statement has been put up by Honorable James Jachi, a member for Asin North. Honorable member, if you are available, you can take the floor.
I don't know. I didn't realize. It's all stupid. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. First, I would like to thank you for accepting my maiden statement and also identifying the team to the August House here. Mr. Speaker, Ghana is blessed with a beautiful climate, rich culture that can attract abundant tourist activities, but regrettably, the upkeep of our sanitation and water supply to our citizens is very poor. It is poorly managed and inadequate to fix. It is sad to say that it is below the standard that will attract any major tourist activities, as this is also poses a health hazard. Mr. Speaker, Accra, the capital city of the country, is nothing to be proud of, as garbage or refuse are littered through and pile up in all marketplaces, food terminals, and also lorry parks. Mr. Speaker, over 90% of the country's plastic industries, which produce over 26
1,000 metric tons of various plastic products are projected to be located in Accra and Tema metropolis. According to the Environmental Protection Agency, about 10,000 metric tons of finished plastic goods are imported into the country per year. Mr. Speaker, statistics released by the Kumasi Metropolitan Assembly, KMA, Waste Management Department, and other waste management bodies stipulates that plastic accounts for about 16.5% of all waste created on a daily basis. This is in a 2010 report. Plastic bags and bottles are used to transport drinking water in Ghana. Since sachet water is portable and easy to transport, the general public has developed a strong preference for it. There's also a perception that mineralized water is cleaner than tap water. These bags are dumped carelessly after gulping down the liquid, that's the water content, littering the entire environment. Mr. Speaker, it will interest you to know that every year Ghana imports about 2.58 million metric tons of raw plastic, with 73% of it ending up in the waste. About 5% of plastic waste is recycled, leaving the remainder to collect in the atmosphere or end up in landfills, with nearly 10% ending up in the ocean. Plastic bottles that end up in the ocean, according to the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, the NOAA, will take up to about 450 years to biodegrade. Plastic waste that wind up in landfills pollutes groundwater and leads to air pollution. Plastic that are not properly decomposed of can collect in drains and cause flooding. Stagnant water causes by pollution induced flooding aids the spread of waterborne diseases such as malaria and cholera among the most vulnerable residents of heavily populated areas. Ghanaians are also fond of burning their discarded plastic waste, which releases toxins into the air. Mr. Speaker, Ghana needs to find a better way to improve on sanitation and water supply to our population, rather than the rhetoric and wasteful capital spending. I could show you a slide of pictorial that I have captured in the streets of Accra and throughout our country, including my constituent, Asin North, if there was a viable or available equipment and ample time to do so. Mr. Speaker, I would like to appeal to the Honorable Minister of Sanitation and Water Resources, Honorable Mrs. Cecilia Abina Depa, this issue of poor sanitation and inadequate water supply, particularly in Ghana's rural and low-income communities, very seriously. Mr. Speaker, I'm going to confront this menace in my constituent, and for this reason, I'm launching a good sanitation and clean water supply initiative in my constituent starting July. That's next month. We members in the chamber are recognized as the first gentlemen and ladies in each of our constituents. I would like to urge my colleagues here to propagate the essence of proper sanitation and plastic waste management in order to curb this menace in the country. I am hoping that the Honorable Minister of Sanitation and Water Resources will use her good office to offer our constituents good guidance and assistance to achieve the goal in alliance with departments involved in realizing this. Mr. Speaker, I'm confident that residents of our various constituencies and all assist in this effort to make Ghana become the beacon of cleanliness in Africa. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Member for Kita.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me the opportunity. I would like to commend the statement maker on sanitation as well as water on the floor of the Parliament. I want to commend my honorable colleague. In fact, Mr. Speaker, I would like to remind you that when you look at even the transportation industry, those who are doing total and then conveying passengers from on the way, you see them taking water and they throw the sachet water, the sachet, even on the road, and polluting the environment. And this is an attitudinal issue in which we, as a members of Parliament, to actually enforce, put pressure on the authorities that supervise those activities to bear on them that we should actually make sure we give them punitive measures, punish them to put stop to that behavior, because behavior change is a process. So long as the law is not biting, people will continue doing that. Even you see people who are highly educated in their own private vehicle or car, and after eating, they just actually roll down their glass and throw the dust, throw the waste on the street, which is appalling. And then in addition to that, when you look at our various communities, now rubber sachets have taken over the community, especially when you look at both football fields, the ocean, the lagoon. They are polluting the lagoon and sea all over. And then sometimes when fishermen get to sea, and then they're supposed to catch fish, they end up bringing a lot of rubber and then water bottles from the sea and then the lagoon. And then it is actually polluting and suffocating aquatic life also. So sometimes even it also have effects on children. When you throw those such plastics around, it serves as a breeding ground for breeding of mosquitoes, which actual fact will end up actually breeding mosquitoes and other neglected tropical diseases, such as other diseases like yellow fever transmission in Ghana, because the vector that actually we are giving the maternity home, we are providing maternity home for those vectors. At the end of the day, they are actually destroying our maternity home. So, Mr. Speaker, I would like to add my voice to this call that this pollution that is going on in countries like Rwanda, they have banned plastic waste completely. If you dare send plastic to Rwanda, you will be apprehended and punished. So it is time now for Ghana, we should strive to actually implement those stiff measures in banning plastic waste in Ghana. That is the only way we can go, because the plastic also actually affects, and in terms of food, in terms of crop also, it has effect on the crops also. So at this juncture, I will call on Honorable Speaker to take this statement seriously and refer to the committee that's supposed to look at it, so that we bring these issues to bear on the society, as well as get the authorities that are supposed to work to full action. On this note, I thank you for giving me the opportunity.
Finally, I'll invite Honorable Member. Let me invite you as the last contributor. Yes.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Let me add my voice to the statement made by the Honorable Member of Asin North. Mr. Speaker, the plastic waste menace become a very serious problem in this country. Wherever you go, you see plastic waste everywhere. I remember
somewhere in 2007 or 2016, when the campaign was really intense. It was the position of the President Akufo-Addo that he was going to make Accra the cleanest city in Africa. But what do we see now? I think it's about the dirtiest city in Africa at the moment. Wherever you go, you see plastic waste everywhere. What are we doing about it? The various municipal and district assemblies, what are they doing? Elsewhere in other countries, these items are separated. We have various containers here and there. We have where we keep papers, we have where we keep plastic and other waste. Can't we do the same thing here? It's always been talk, but no action. Mr. Speaker, I think it's about time we dealt with this issue once and for all. The municipal and district assemblies must enforce these rules. People drink water and they throw it anywhere. You see people in cars or in buses, they drink the water instead of probably keeping them in the car so that wherever their destination is, they dispose them of. They just throw them anyhow. So, Mr. Speaker, I believe it is something that the government must take over, especially with the Minister of Environment, Minister of Sanitation. Always be promise over promise over promise that we are doing it. We are making every effort to do it. But what do we see? Let's look at our current state in which we find ourselves. Accra is so dirty. I think the most neatest city I find in the whole of Ghana is Sunyani. It is the best. Apart from Sunyani, go to all the other cities, and they are as filthy and dirty as anything. So, Mr. Speaker, I think it's high time we dealt with this issue once and for all, so that at least the aim or the objective of making Accra the cleanest city will be achieved. Thank you very much for the opportunity, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much. Leadership, will you have a bite? Oh, it's okay.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. The Speaker, I must make some few comments on the statement. The Speaker, before then, let me commend the Honorable Member for taking this bold initiative to bring a statement on the sanitation situation in the country. The Speaker, your joint committees of local government, rural development, environment, science and technology, and Committee on Works and Housing embark upon a nationwide tour on this same sanitation situation. The Speaker, what we saw not different from what the Honorable Member had just read. He is a member of the local government committee, and I know he took a lot of facts from the fact-finding tour that we embark upon. The Speaker, these committees, however, will be presenting a report to the House. Because of that, I will not comment. I will not talk much. However, Mr. Speaker, I will take the opportunity to seek your leave that once the member has made this statement, even though, first of all, we should have got a referral from you before embarking upon the tour for our report to be presented to the floor. But we considered it as a work in progress. That is why from the 7th Parliament, that is why we concluded it this time. So, Mr. Speaker, ordinarily, I would have asked you to refer to the joint committees to go and look at. But once the work has already been done, I only want to seek your leave so that tomorrow when the business statement is presented, you allow the two reports, the one by the local government and the one by the joint committee on their monitoring visits, while we were on recess, to be laid on the floor and be debated for members to make their input next week when those reports are being debated. I'm saying this because, the Speaker, in the 7th Parliament, when the committees went on tour and brought their report to the House,
upon reading the report, it was necessary for government to take certain giant steps, which government has done. And I believe it will be appropriate for the report to be laid. Where praise is worthy, we give it. Or where there is a need for criticisms, we constructively criticize. So once government has taken certain steps in implementing some of the input from this House, we must present the report for members to know, or for Ghanaians to know, that Parliament as a whole, our committees are helping to arrest the sanitation situation in the country. With these few comments, Mr. Speaker, I want to end here and just to remind you that I'm seeking your leave to grant that leave. The committee will factor our report as part of the activities to be presented to the House next week, tomorrow morning when the business statement is presented. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity.
Yes, majority leadership. Do you have any contribution?
Except to say that the day has been well spent, and we are in your hands, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable members, at this juncture, we will bring statement time to a close. And I'll use the opportunity to thank all of you for your contributions. Let me at this time also come to the leadership for direction.
Mr. Speaker, I think statements are, you would have taken us to the commencements of public business before, if we can adjourn, before we can adjourn.
Majority leadership, is there anything?
At the commencement of public business, if there is any public business to be executed, and so if there is none, ask to adjourn.
Mr. Speaker, as has been agreed by leadership, the motion is still on hold. So therefore, we can bring today's proceedings to an end. Thank you.
Mr. Speaker, we support the position of the Honorable Deputy.
Honorable members, the House is accordingly adjourned for Friday, the 4th June 2021 at 10 o'clock in the forenoon. Once again, I want to thank all of you for your participation.